Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people with relatable content and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I am Harry, and today we're going to be having another board game review. Today I'll be reviewing this game right here, Taj Mahal, designed by Reiner Knizia, and this edition, at least, this modern reprint, is by Z-Man Games. I'm going to set the game up, show you a few rounds of how it plays, and then I'll come back and show you and share with you my final thoughts. So this is what the game looks like set up for 3 players. This game can play anywhere from 2 to 5 players. The 2-player game is an official variant with a dummy player that works very well. I most often play this game at 2. But right now I have a 3-player game set up for you. So this is what the game looks like. You have the board, which is a map of India, or at least a good chunk of India, divided into 12 color-coded regions. And you have these market tiles that you shuffle and randomly place on the 12 different regions. But the 12th region is always the region of Agra, which is where you will end the game, where the actual Taj Mahal was built. And building on that spot would get you a bonus 4 points, which in this game, 4 points is a good chunk. So when you see the 12 different regions, this determines where we will be going and the numerical order in which we are going to go. We're going to go into each of these 12 regions, one by one. So here, right here on the south part of India, we have number 1. And we always place this market tile on this little podium here to elevate it so you know exactly where you are for that round. And after round 1 is done, we will be going over to round 2, which is all the way over here, and we will follow our way along. So you could actually map out your turns from a strategic perspective because you know exactly where you'll be going next. And you'll understand how that works more as I explain more of the rules. So this game basically consists of 12 rounds. Each of these 12 rounds, you're going through these different regions. And what you're doing is you're vying for influence with these different court officers here. We have the general right here. We have the princess right here. We have the vizier right here. And we have the monk right here. And also this little token here represents the mogul or the ruler. And this is probably the most influential, the most important piece of all to some extent. Also, we're vying for influence in the actual markets, which will gain us the right to these actual market tiles, right? So we will be taking turns, starting with the starting player, basically bidding for this influence. And the way it works, each player has a starting hand of 6 cards. And the cards come in 4 different colors. You have blue, you have yellow, you have green, and you also have pink. We also have white cards, which are wild cards that can be played as long as they're played alongside of a colored card. And the way it works is if you want to bid in this current round, you place down a card of a color. Once you've chosen that color for this round, you are committed to that color this round. You would only be able to play, for example, blues for the rest of the round, or white cards that are played alongside with blues. The white cards can never be played by themselves, and they can never be played along with your first card. Your first card must be played by itself. Now, these cards have anywhere from 2 to 1 symbol on them, and the symbols are the symbols of the different areas or the different spheres that we're vying for influence over. So basically, each symbol that's indicated on your cards counts as a currency, so to speak, for that officer or for the market. And you're trying to have more than your opponents. But the interesting way it works is that it's not how much you have when the auction is done. It's how much you have when you decide to drop out of the auction. So let's just demonstrate how this works. I'm going to play this blue because I feel I have a good chance of winning with blue because I have a few cards that I can invest towards that in this round. So I'm going to play down this card. And now the other players are going to choose if they want to go toe-to-toe with me. Because if you actually drop out of the bid before you even commit a card, you get to draw an extra card from this stash into your hand. Because at the end of the game, at the end of each round, after you drop out, if you're the first person to drop out, you're going to get 2 cards from this face-up lineup here. And then the next person will get 2. And finally, the last person to drop out in an auction has the misfortune of being stuck with the 1 card that was unchosen by the other players, and they would add that card into their hand. But if you drop out of the bid or the auction without even committing a single card, not only do you get to grab your 2 cards, but again, like as I mentioned, you get to grab the top card from the deck and add it also. So that's a way of building up your supply of cards. Now this player, the Brown Palace player, has a bunch of blues as well. So he could play this 2 elephants, and the elephant symbol basically represents the market. He could play these 2 elephants because he's trying to win the market. Now, just because I play blue does not mean that other players cannot play blue if that's the color they decide to play. The point is, once this player has committed to blue, they must continue or either drop out. Now, the third player, again, is faced with the same decision. They could drop out without even committing a single card, or they could look at their hand here and say, you know what? I still have a chance because here I have an elephant and a vizier, and nobody has committed any elephants. Well, elephants have, but nobody's committed any viziers to this auction yet. So they will place this green card down. And now, at this point in the round, I could actually drop out, and it would actually be very wise to do so because it doesn't look like I have a good chance of beating the elephants. So I could drop out of this bid right now. And because currently, at the moment, I have the most generals and the most monks, I have 1 apiece, and neither of my opponents has any of them, I could drop out and gain each of these 2 tokens right here, which represents the fact that I have won the favor of these court officers. Mind you, once a player collects 2 tokens of any particular court officer, they are entitled to their special wild card. Each of the officers has a special wild card. These cards will be changing hands throughout the course of the game because as another player gets their second token of that officer and turns them in, they'll be snatching that card from you. But each of these different officers provides a special wild card that you never discard. You keep on playing it until someone takes the card from you. And they add some neat abilities. For example, the monk lets you play any card as if it were any color of your choice. The general gives you an additional elephant symbol, which are very valuable in this game. The vizier gives you an additional mogul symbol, which is also very valuable in the game. And the princess gives you 2 points that you score immediately every time you play this wild card alongside with a colored card. These work as the regular wild cards, the white cards, where you always have to play this alongside with a colored card. So I will drop out of the bid. I have these 2 tiles right here representing the favor of these. And because I won the favor of 2 of these court officers, I'm entitled to put 2 palaces down in this region. And if you look over here, there are 4 options as to where you can place the palaces, right? And this option right here has a special token that if I build a palace there, I get to draw this token, flip it upside down, and see what it has. As you can see, there are several of these special tokens across the board. And they give you either straight up victory points or special unique resources that can also get you victory points. So I am going to choose to build one of my 2 palaces right here on this spot. And right here, I have this right here, this little resource right here, which because I have 1 of this kind of resource, I score myself 1 point. So I will advance myself on the track here to the 1 spot. Now, in future rounds, if I pick up more tokens of this same exact resource, either from the special tokens that are in the different spots or from the actual markets, because some of these markets have the same exact resources as these tiles right here, not only do I score the resource that I just acquired, but I score the resources of the same kind that I've acquired in previous rounds all over again. So there's a continuing scoring if you invest in 1 or 2 of the same types of resources. So I will set this aside here, my little player area. I will discard the one card that I used to bid. I still have one more palace to place down, and I am going to place it. I'm going to place it right here. Okay. And now I score 1 point for that. So no matter how many palaces you place down, as long as you place down one palace, it doesn't matter if it was 2 palaces or even 4 palaces, as long as you place down one palace, you score exactly 1 point. However, if you are able, if you see these different lines that connect into the different regions across India, if you're able to build a network of palaces that connects through into other regions, you score an additional point for every region that your network connects to. So for example, if I had a palace right here, it would score me the 1 point plus an additional point because it connects into this additional region. But if it connected into 2 additional regions, that would be 2 points, and so on and so forth. So calculating and strategizing as to where you build your palaces can truly optimize your strategic results. So there is that. So we've got the 2 palaces, and this player is done with their turn. Now this player is faced with the same decision as I was. Will they drop out, or will they continue to invest? They're going to also drop out because they realize that they have a guaranteed win at the market right now. The market is very valuable. So they're going to pass, even though this also means that they will pass on the opportunity of potentially building here, having a presence in this region. So they're going to drop out. Oh, wait, let me choose 2 cards from my turn. I'm going to choose these 2 cards. You preferably want to choose cards of the same color. And since I still have a lot of blues, guess what? I have even more blues now. And this player is going to drop out, and they're going to also pick 2 cards of the same color, 2 pinks. And they're going to grab this token. And this token, the first region you go to, is actually the only region that only has 1 resource. All the other ones have 2 resources. So he's going to score 1 point for having that 1 resource. And again, every time he picks up this resource again, this barrel of grain or whatever it is, every time you build, he grabs another token with this resource on it, he will score this one again, as well as the ones that he grabs in the future. So there we go. And then finally, this player can choose to drop out as well and get get the vizier token. They won the favor of the vizier, and they get to place down 1 palace, and they will place their palace right here, right there. And again, they also score 1 point for that palace, no matter what. All right, and we're pretty much done with this round. Now, if somebody would have won the favor of the mogul, what that grants you is, not only does that allow you to place down a palace, but the mogul allows you to place a palace anywhere you want, including a place where there already is a palace. So you could do something like place your palace, and the way they're designed, the components here, really nice palaces, they could actually stack upon one another. So you could actually literally put it just right on top of it. And it doesn't usurp the palace of the other player, but it basically means that you both have a presence in that spot. So that player is still representing that spot, and it will factor into any other network of regions that they build. But it also allows a player to say, hey, you know what? I would have normally been stuck from what I originally wanted to do because you blocked my spot. But now because I have the mogul, guess what? You don't block me. I get to put this wherever I want. So that is the benefit of the mogul. And basically, we keep on doing this over and over again throughout the game, going through the 12 different regions. And again, you're setting yourself up in a various amount of ways. First of all, you're setting yourself up geographically or spatially, because where you place your palaces throughout the different regions will create opportunities for you in the future to score more points, right? Because without the actual chain of regions or the network of connecting regions, it becomes really, really hard to score in this game, and it could be very meager because, again, no matter how many palaces you build, you're only going to score 1 point per region unless you're making some of these regions connect into a network of adjacent regions. So you want to try to optimize your strategy in that sense so you could do that and plan with the long term in mind. Also, the resources you invest in are also part of the long-term strategy, right? Because as you acquire certain resources, you should probably go into future turns trying to win the markets that have those resources you've already invested in. Why try so hard to win a market that has 2 resources that you don't have any in, right? It's too much of an investment for just 2 points. However, if that market has 2 resources that you already have 3 points apiece for, then we're talking about 8 points that you would score for winning that market. So again, it's all about long-term planning in all of these different areas. And finally, building your last palace here on this spot in Agra can give you 4 points, which can be a game changer in this game. At the end of the game, after the 12 rounds are completed, players will tally up all their points, plus they will add additional points. They will choose the set of colored cards that they have the most cards of. For example, here in this case, it would be 4 of these blues. And for each of those cards, they would score a point. So if you have whatever color you have the most of, you can score a lot of points at the end of the game for doing that. Also, each of your white cards, including the special white cards that the court officers provide, will also score you an additional point. So even after the game is done, you still don't quite know who the winner is until you tally up all the points and reveal your cards. And that's pretty much how the game of Taj Mahal is played. Now catch me as I share my grades and final thoughts for this game. All right, so that's how Taj Mahal plays. Pretty simple. I would say it's maybe not light, but definitely more on the lighter end of games than it is to the heavy end of games, right? Medium light. This game was originally published in 2000, and as I give my grades, my overall grades for this, I will factor that information in, the fact that it's a 2000 design. So first, let's talk about theme. When it comes to Reiner Knizia games, I can be probably a little bit strict, but not as strict as some people. So don't jump down my throat just yet. But theme and thematic integration aren't necessarily his forte or his strong suit. So I'm going to give this a C+. There are some interesting elements, you know, you're vying for favor of the different court officers or the mogul himself. You are, you know, if you win the rights to the market, that makes you, rich, theoretically. Having, regions that are, closely associated with one another, increases the support maybe that they receive, which makes them more valuable regions, and perhaps that's why the scoring works the way it does. The mogul is more powerful than any of the court officers, and therefore he can place his palaces anywhere he wants, even on top of one of a previously placed palace. Okay, but at the end of the day, the mechanisms, and no mechanism really recreates, maybe a few out there, but most mechanisms don't really recreate a theme. But I do find that there's a little bit to be desired. So yeah, I'm gonna give a C+ for theme. Not the worst grade I've given a thematic game of Reiner Knizia's. Then we will go to the components, and for the components, I'm gonna give it an A-. I think that Z-Man Games did a solid job, and while this game was originally designed in 2000, I own this 2018 edition by Z-Man Games, and it's nice and pretty. The map looks nice, the colors look good, the little palaces look nice and shiny, nicely shaped. The tokens, are nice, good quality cardboard. The cards look nice. The artwork on the cards are good. The art on the box cover is really, really good. So yeah, I'm gonna give this an A- for components. And then we will talk about gameplay, where I will give this another solid A-. I think it's a really neat game. It's a game that a lot of people don't talk about when they talk about the great Reiner Knizia games, even the classic older Reiner Knizia games, which this does fall into. This is from the year 2000, and he had a lot of good games really around that time, around the year 2000, and maybe that didn't help this game. You know, games like Dream Factory, the Lord of the Rings cooperative game. Some of these games maybe have taken some attention away from Taj Mahal as a game, but out of those three, this is definitely my favorite. So I like just the different ways you could score points. This is almost like a point salad type of game to some extent, except there's not that many different ways to score points, but you can focus primarily on something. You could primarily focus on building, routes, or building your palaces in a way that the networks can connect with other regions. That's interesting. Or you can just try to place your palaces on the most valuable spots that give you special bonus tokens and score you points. You can anticipate future turns because from the very beginning of the game, the sequential order of the 12 rounds. You go through the 12 different regions, and it's not going to be always the same, but from the beginning of the game, you can map out, okay, so we're going to be over here in round 1, and we're going to be over here in round 3, and we're going to be over here in round 5. And based on that foreknowledge, based on that information that you have from the get-go, you can kind of strategize, map out, the regions that you want to focus on. I want to really focus on winning round number 3 because then I could set myself up for round number 6, which connects to round number 3. You can think ahead like that. Now, it doesn't mean that your best laid plans are always going to come to fruition. There's going to be moments of frustration, just like any game that allows for, strategic, game planning. Also creates those opportunities where you might be disappointed and frustrated because your best laid plans did not work. But it's really, really cool. The market, you could really just focus on the market. Let's just go heavy on the market. If I lose some of these other spots, but I can win lots of markets, those points will start to pile up and add a lot of points. You can really try to hoard cards, because maybe if you hoard cards of one color type, you can score a whole bunch of bonus points at the end of the game. That could be an interesting route to go through. So there's so many different ways you could find to score points. Probably the best or most optimal plan would be to do a little bit of everything, but you do have those options. So I am going to give this game an A- for gameplay. And finally, the novelty factor. I'm going to give this game a B+ for novelty factor. There are lots of concepts in this game that are not necessarily original. The route building or the network building is not necessarily original to Taj Mahal. I think it's a very simplified way of doing route network building, which other games kind of did network building in a more simplified way as the years went by. Prior to this, you had games like the 18XX games and Union Pacific, which is kind of the forefather or the predecessor of Ticket to Ride, which many people don't know. Before Ticket to Ride, there was Union Pacific, which was Alan Moon's train game before that. And it was a game that was in the making for many years. I think he had a game called Airlines prior to that. And finally, it culminates in Airlines Europe. So you have all these different older network building games. And Reiner Knizia just decided to tap into that mechanism and make it his own. But there are some interesting things. For example, the way you score resources, and you rescore them again later on. So if you have a resource, not only does it score you then, but if you gain a resource of the same kind later on, not only do you score the resource just gained, but you score all the previous resources of the same type that you had already gained in previous turns. That's really, really cool. I've seen that borrowed by Stefan Feld in Castles of Burgundy. I'm sure there's other games out there that also have a similar mechanism. But I think that's neat and it's cool. And I think that I know of, that's the first time it was ever demonstrated in a game by Reiner Knizia. Also, the auction bidding system in this game, and even though it's not normally classified as auction bidding, it really is. You're playing a card. The card doesn't represent money. It represents a different symbol of the different court officers or of the market. And you have either one or two symbols on the card, and you have wild cards and all that stuff. But you're playing it down, and you're always having the choice of either increasing or dropping out. That is very much how an auction goes, right? You're just not dealing with money, currency. You're dealing with influence or favor, whatever you want to call it. But it's neat because when you drop out, because you're dealing with so many different spheres at the same time, I think there's 6 different areas that you're vying for, you have a very good chance of when you drop out that you have the majority in one or even more of those areas, and then you could just drop out and boom, collect all of that without having to invest more money. You don't have to go crazy on a bidding war with somebody else who might outdo you, and then you regret it, especially because in this game, you don't pick up your cards when you drop out or lose a bid. You lose everything, right? It's once it's put down, there's no getting it back. But it's cool how you can easily make it work for you, right? And just looking at the different colors that other people are working on, different cards that other people are working on, and just focusing and seeing when people draw new cards as the game goes on, what colors they're drawing from. Then if you can remember, well, I've seen them draw lots of yellows, so they have lots of yellows to spare. If they start off with a yellow, I know that this person is ready to go the distance in this turn's auction, so I might want to be thoughtful about whether or not I even want to start. And also, I might just pass up altogether, because if I pass up and don't even throw down one card in the auction, boom, I get to draw an additional card than what I would regularly draw. So that is also really, really neat. So again, I'm going to give it a B+ for novelty factor. This game is from the year 2000, and there were some things that were already in place as far as the route network building, but I do feel that some of these other mechanisms are relatively new and relatively fresh, even for the time. So overall, I'm going to give this game a score of B+. It has lots of great elements to it. Again, I personally think it's an underrated Reiner Knizia design. I like this game a lot. Probably my favorite Reiner Knizia game. You can check out my top 10 Reiner Knizia games video that I made to see where this and other games rank. But yeah, it works for me. I like the Indian theme. My wife has visited India in the past, so there is that connection as well. And again, it's just a game that feels, light and easy to teach and to learn, but at the same time with some great, neat decision-making opportunities, which is what I look for in a game. I like when a game has easy, streamlined rules, but at the same time doesn't feel like you're just making petty or insignificant decisions. And that's what this game provides for me. So yep, I give it an overall score of B+, and that is my review for this classic underrated game by Dr. Reiner Knizia, Taj Mahal. Thank you so much for joining us here at When Harry Met Board Games. Please don't forget to hit the like button down below and subscribe to our channel if you're interested in some more board game related content. This is Harry saying, take care everybody, have fun gaming, and stay safe. Bye-bye.